Using what he calls stair-step goals, Tiger Shaw grew from a hopeful at the Mount Mansfield Ski Club to a two-time Olympian.
I knew Billy Kidd and Peter Kidd, and I knew Billy had been in the Olympics and the World Championships, and so I knew that was maybe something I could do someday, but I didn't know really how I was going to get there, but I knew how I was going to get through the next season, and one season led to another, to another, to another, and once you move from one level to the next and then you look backwards, it doesn't look like it was that big a step forward. You know, you achieve a stair-step goal like that and you think, okay, I'm here. Okay, big deal. Now let's go on to the next step. Once you've gone through a bunch of those, you look back and you realize how far you've come. And you also realize how far it seems to be to get there when you're 4 or 5 steps below that. How am I going to get all the way up there? So all the way to the Olympics is such a stretch to think, you know, I want to be there, sure, I'd like to, but how am I ever going to get there? And then eventually I did, but it was a little piece at a time, a little step at a time.
The first step was a childhood spent exploring Stowe's terrain.
I think we probably skied every Friday, Saturday, Sunday all winter since I was 4 or 5, and I really didn't know anything different. I mean, if we weren't skiing on a weekend during the winter, it was probably either because I had a broken leg or a twisted ankle or something else was wrong, but I mean, that was pretty much what we did all the time.
After success racing with the Mount Mansfield Ski Club and in regional races, Tiger went to the Stratton Mountain School for the fall of his senior year in high school. He spent 6 weeks training in Europe and decided to defer his Dartmouth admission for 2 years in order to train and explore his options with the US ski team. He skied his first winter at Dartmouth for the Dartmouth ski team before making the US ski team. He graduated from Dartmouth in 1985 with a degree in economics and a knowledge of engineering. He competed for 10 years on the international circuit and in the 1984 Sarajevo Olympics and the 1988 Calgary Olympics. He was ranked 15th in the world.
It really is an incredible experience representing your country in the Olympics. But you have to approach it like it's nothing, like it's no different than any other race, because you're not going to be able to compete if you go to it thinking you're going to try extra hard like it's something that's different, then why aren't you doing that every day? So you have to downplay in your own mind, but to make sure you have the best performance you possibly can.
During his career, technology evolved. He had to relearn slalom technique with the advent of the flexible slalom gate. Boots changed from low leather to plastic to the use of jet sticks to increase the height of the boot.
The 10 years I spent on the World Cup, almost never was I good at both. I was mainly a giant slalom skier and struggled with slalom for years. And then in the middle of my career, I figured slalom out. My GS slipped a little bit. And then the last 4 years of my career, I was by far better in slalom, and giant slalom sort of slipped off a bit. And after a couple of years of having a tough time in giant slalom, I wouldn't say I specialized in slalom, but I kind of gave up on GS at that point. And there were a few other older racers that were specialists in slalom, some that made it to like 34, 35 years old in slalom, and you almost never saw that in GS at the time. So I also thought, well, that was something I'd be able to remain competitive at into my 30s, and I retired when I was 31.
Retiring was a difficult decision, but he finished on a high note.
It can be tiring, but at the end of the season, you get pretty burned out. But the funny thing was, at the end of every season, when you're trying to figure out, okay, am I going to keep going, am I going to retire? The thought that you might get better, the possibility of getting better the next season, absolutely forces you to go on. You must go on because you need to know if you can get better.
Tiger used his engineering background and stayed in the ski industry for several years before changing tracks. However, skiing was a constant. He served on the US ski team board of directors since 1986 and as a coach for the Ford Sayre program in Hanover, New Hampshire. He has tied the two together by working to improve the USSA's relationship with ski clubs.
Tried to help in terms of the interface between the US ski team and the clubs and understanding the pyramid. You know, there are more J3s than there are J2s, more J2s than there are 1s, and as you go all the way to the top, then you have a few elite racers. So the whole concept of making sure the pyramid's as big as possible and it doesn't become too sharp of a pyramid where you end up with just a few athletes from a large base, because it's a numbers game. Do you have 5 kids in the World Cup level and 2 can win? that's better than having 3 and 1 or none. And that all starts at the grassroots level.
The Vermont Ski and Snowboard Museum Hall of Fame welcomes Tiger Shaw.